is a Bulldog radio podcast.
The Ferris State Bulldogs have upset the nation's number 2 ranked team. Wide open! Taylor is going to take this one to the house! Touchdown Bulldogs!
Season 4, episode 24 of the MVSP. I'm Joe Nagy, joined, as always, with Brandon Worth. What a show we have for you guys. A week of upsets, excitement, and dude, what a time to be a Bulldog, Brandon. Big wins over GV, Minnesota State for hockey, and also just a lot of other things to talk about for the Ferris State Sports Report. Got some stuff going on with college football with Deion Sanders, Brandon, going to Colorado, becoming to Buffalo. We got a lot to talk about, but first, what do we have coming on the show?
We have a great interview fresh off of an anchor bone revenge victory for regional title. Mylik Mitchell and Carson Gulker, guys, you're not going to want to miss this one. We had a great conversation with these guys about the win, as well as how they go about at QBU, Joe, because Ferris State is the QBU.
We have so many
Division 2.
That is true. We have so many quarterbacks, but without further ado, Brandon, let's swing it to the interview.
Now joined in studio, got a pair of quarterbacks joining us, winning quarterbacks in the Anchor Bone rematch. Carson Gulker, Mylik Mitchell. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you, dog.
Great to have you guys back on the show. Huge win over Grand Valley last weekend and great performances from you both. You know, what does it mean for you guys to return the favor from earlier this year with kind of the punch in the mouth that the Lakers gave you guys?
Punch in the mouth.
I mean, how would you describe it, Mylik? Yeah. Like, we'd love to hear your perspective on that game.
Perspective-wise, I mean, from my perspective personally, I was coming off of really sitting out for like 4 or 5 weeks. I just had to get comfortable for a while, and it took a couple quarters. We started off a little slow and things like that. We obviously ended up not getting a win, but I guess you could call it a punch in the mouth. Because when we get to the next one, we're going to call it a punch in the mouth, too.
Oh, yeah, true.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, you socked him right back, too.
Jab for a jab type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Jab for jab. Two good teams always do that to each other, for sure.
I mean, all week we were kind of talking about, like, get back. Like,
For sure.
So it was a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with that, I mean, you guys gave him the bigger punch in the mouth. You guys kind of knocked him out cold with that one. But, I mean, especially two great teams, too. I mean, I think the only time that both of those teams have lost, TA said it in the post game, was only to you guys. I mean, what was that like for you guys kind of getting ready for the second time going into that week?
I feel like we was pretty confident going into it.
Most definitely.
I mean, we let the first one slip. That's how we felt. So going into this one,
I don't think anybody on the team had any thought that we would take 2 losses to the same team.
For sure.
Especially with the amount of things we could learn from the film. And, we got guys back from that weren't healthy that game, that were really vital pieces on defense. If you look at it, they ran the ball on us pretty well. And that's probably because we had a lot of guys on the D-line that weren't in the game, that normally are major contributors and stuff like that. So, we kind of got worn down a little bit, and that happens when you ain't got everybody healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Carson, you ended up starting the offense in that first quarter with that touchdown off the block punt. But then from there, it was a little stagnant, a little stale. You guys had a couple punts there, couldn't quite get the rhythm going, it seemed like. What was the biggest change about halfway through that third quarter? I mean, you had that big draw run, Mylik, and that ended up scoring your score. What was the biggest change that you guys made to really counter that and really make a run in the fourth quarter, which Grand Valley kind of did at our place, and you guys returned the favor and ended up getting the win?
Couple plays, man. I say they were just kind of the guys making plays. You know what I mean? It might not have been the best play called up or drawn up or nothing like that. Just guys made something happen when they got the ball in their hand. Even on my touchdown, that was a pass play, and they just vacated the box. It was like, why not just, you know what I'm saying? Why not just take it for a touchdown right here? So that's how that play went. That's how really the whole second half went. Players just made things happen. Even on CJ's run, he hasn't cut that play up all year. You know what I'm saying? We haven't gotten the center to pull around and get that guy all year. And just on that play, people were just making plays happen.
Yeah.
At the right time.
I agree with that. I mean, it wasn't necessarily pretty the whole time.
It wasn't pretty at all.
Sure, yeah. Sometimes you got to play a dirty game to get the job done. I mean, not a clean loss. No, dirty W over clean loss any day, right?
So
yeah, for sure. And for you, Carson, I mean, 25 rush touchdowns on the year. You broke Jason Vanderlaan's record that he set in 2015. I mean, as a freshman, what does that mean for you to really have this much success so early on in your collegiate career?
I mean, honestly, I didn't even know I was anywhere close to that. I didn't know what the record was.
Come on, Carson. That's pretty cool.
I had some news guy text me after the game, kind of be like, "Yo, you broke Vanderlaan's record," and I was kind of like, "What? Like, is this like a real a real dude. And then I had my mom text me and my dad text me. I was like, oh,
bro, you know they got Vanderline like with crowns on his head hanging around here and stuff, bro. You broke some real records, bro.
I was like, yeah, that was pretty sweet. But I mean, it'll be sweeter after we win the national championship.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, for you guys, I mean, especially, I mean, you guys have rotated roles, especially, and you believe you were the starter at the beginning of the season. Obviously, got banged up a little bit. Carson, you took over for him. What's been your guys' overall interaction, even with the other quarterbacks in the room? I know we talked to you about it, Mylik and Carson individually, but collectively, like, you guys got Jesse and Evan, who don't even have that much action overall on the field, but they're still studs. I mean, how do you guys interact with that, go with practice, and make sure everybody's prepared for the game?
I think everybody knows their role once we get down to 10, 11, 12 weeks into the season. You pretty much figure out what you're going to be doing for 12, 13, 14, 15 weeks in the season. You know what I'm saying? So, and then on top of that, in practice, it's like you don't have time to get 4 quarterbacks reps, 4 running backs reps. You know what I'm saying? The people who are being counted on and who have been getting counted on and they're putting stuff on film, they got to, produce in practice so that we know what's going on. On top of that, when we get deeper into the season, we're putting in new plays, you know what I'm saying, and different adjustments and things like that. Those guys who the coaches know can handle that workload and, switch their mindset around from week to week, they'll be in there and they'll be playing.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback room specifically, I mean, it's pretty seamless. We all know what we got to do. I mean, he's helping me. He's helping Jesse. Jesse's helping me. I'm helping Jesse.
So,
we're not really worried about us necessarily. We're worried about getting the job done.
Yeah, so I mean, after the national championship last year, you said it was QBU, so it's a team that really is very blessed in the quarterback position.
Think about that, like Gulker didn't play last year in the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's why I say QBU, man. It's just really next guy up. Even Jesse, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with Jesse as anything, running the ball, passing the ball, reading the defense. He can do it all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a 3-star coming out of high school, wasn't he? Yeah.
I was too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's no difference. It's just what the coaches want and who they trust and things like that. Not saying they don't trust anybody or nothing like that, but sometimes it's just luck, man. You get thrown in there and you make 5 touchdowns in the game. You're probably gonna stay in the game the next week. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that, man.
Yeah, for sure. And especially for you, Mylik, going back to that injury that you had, what was that like so far this year, kind of just with recovery and just getting back to it?
So after the first week, I didn't even know I came out the game. The coach pulled me out the game without even knowing that I had got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So the next, Sunday or Monday when I came in, I'm like, yo, I kind of can't walk, yo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's bad, yo. They're like, what did you do over the weekend? And I'm like, bro, I just didn't tell y'all when you pulled me out because I was done anyway.
Yeah.
I was done in the game anyway. So it's like, why tell you? And I thought it would go away a little bit, but it kind of didn't. And I ended up having a torn ligament in my foot. And basically that ligament keeps your foot together. You know what I'm saying? It keeps your big toe attached to the other toes. And so without that, every time I plant, it's like, your foot spreads out, and things like that. So I just got different taping mechanisms and, that's really all you can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a battle of attrition, and we've seen that certainly, especially over, like we were just talking about over before we started the podcast. I mean, 15-week season, especially in collegiate football, is something that a lot of people can't even comprehend how much physicality and toughness that it takes. And for you guys, especially as a collective group, not just quarterbacks, but the team all together. I mean, Mylik, you mentioned a lot of defensive guys out the first Grand Valley game and parts of the season. But you guys have had so much depth that it's next man up. And you guys haven't docked performances overall in the season. You've kept winning, and that's really gotten you the position. Like, how does that happen with a lot of this team as compared to some other teams that might crumble a little bit?
A lot of it is mental. Like, if you go back to last year, you were probably more stacked than this year. And that will have the guys who are lower in the depth chart kind of thinking, man, when am I going to get my turn? When am I going to, do this? And then you fast forward to this year, and those guys are the ones we're counting on. There's no one behind those guys. You know what I'm saying? Because we done lost guys like X, Brandon, Tyrese been out for a little bit. OB was out for a little bit. That's just on off. That's your
starting receiving group right there.
That's the whole receiving group.
Yeah.
And then you think from last year, T Minor, Marvin, Booby, all of them are gone. Mm-hmm. That was our 3. That's our whole running back room. And those guys are all gone. So we done had to move Marcus to running back. Got some freshmen at running back. It's just, it's next man up. So I think it's really mental, man. You got to just stay in it, especially when you're playing for a great team. You're not going to be starting as a freshman coming out of high school. I'm 26. You know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, bro. I have a lot of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So I got a lot of knowledge on top of it. I can still move around a little bit, and do things. So, Gulk, he built like a 27-year-old, man. You know what I'm saying? 230, 6'4". So he had no his business, but most guys aren't coming out of high school like that. And so you got to sit down and learn and develop your weight and your strength and all that. So.
Sure.
And I think, all these guys lower on the depth chart, they're still going against the best defense in the nation.
Definitely.
We're still going. Our defense is still going against one of the top offenses in the nation. So if you think they're going to come out every day and practice and not get better, they might not show it on the field right away, but they're still coming out and getting better every day. So,
sure.
That's a big part of it.
The fans just don't get to see it,
Yeah.
But we all see it in practice every day. We know who's getting better, who's going to probably be the guy when this season's over, or maybe not even. We still got 2 games left. Who knows? But like he's saying, bro, like people are getting really good without even playing a single snap.
Yeah, absolutely. Iron sharpens iron. I think that's the best analogy for this team.
Yeah, and speaking of fans, especially with the ankle bone last week, you obviously got chirped by some fans. Me and Brandon got chirped already, and we weren't even playing. We're just there to have a good time. But do you guys ever, especially when you're warming up, do you guys ever kind of like give it right back to them, or kind of what's that for you guys? Are you guys more of a chirp right back, or more of a let it fuel the fire type deal?
I'm not one to chirp back.
You don't talk, man.
Mylik will let him know though.
That's how I came up. I really came up on the court. I feel like basketball, if you ain't talking those hoes, it ain't like in football, you got a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody sees what you're saying anyway. On the court, you kind of got to pop you got to pop your stuff a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I was raised playing basketball and really just in life, period. Just I talk my stuff. I ain't, especially with a fan, you ain't even about to play, bro. Come put the pads on. You know what I'm saying? Come put them on. Come holler at me out here.
Yeah, for sure. As PG as you can keep it, like what are some of the best ones that you that you guys have gotten so far?
Oh goodness,
from the fans.
Yeah, like as PG as you can, like PG or PG-13, I guess.
13.
I got a lot of you. Just flat out, you suck. Like 12, you ain't getting no snaps.
So
do they look at the depth chart of where you're at on the team?
They're just talking.
Yeah,
just brush that off my shoulder.
People don't really talk too much to me because I come back with some venom. Like I can't say what I say. I say one thing like Pitt State, a guy hit one of our dudes on the sideline, and he turned around. He turned to the sideline and got to talking. I said, bro, it's the last big game you ever gonna play in, bro.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he ain't say nothing after that or the rest of the game, but that's probably because it's facts. You know what I'm saying? for this year, I ain't gonna say. It's just in a moment talking, but that's how it is, bro.
I respect it. I respect it. Yeah.
And they call Leak the closer.
Yeah, true.
No, I'm just kidding.
Nah, he's the closer.
Yeah, that's for sure. Obviously.
They call Mylik the sheriff in town. That's what
there you go. There's
a sheriff. I don't know about the police, but I'll take it.
For sure. But great game coming up against West Florida. Obviously you guys had probably heard a lot of the stories from the older players about the 19 game and how really devastating it was to the season. But getting able to get on the field and have revenge against West Florida back on our home turf. How ready are you guys ready to prepare, and how ready are you guys for this game?
What did TA say? Our last 3 losses were West Florida, Grand Valley, and
Valdosta.
And Valdosta, yeah.
Revenge.
And last year in the Natty beat Valdosta. Our other losses, Grand Valley, just beat them. So now going into West Florida.
And really, me and him, we weren't even here when they played West Florida. So it's like, I'm not really into the revenge thing anyway. I play game to game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it is what it is. But I know there's guys on the team that want that revenge, so I feed into it a little bit for them.
Sure,
yeah.
But for me personally, it's just another game. I don't even think there's any players on their team probably, or maybe a couple that played in that game. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's all just a bunch of hoorah. It's football. You got to build some suspense around things and all that,
Yeah, absolutely. And then, especially, it's not going to be the greatest weather, but it won't be the worst either. What's it kind of like for you guys to be able to kind of practice in this weather? I know we talked about it a little bit last time you both were on the show, but, what's kind of TA's philosophy when it gets to these cold weather times where, he might say no sweatshirts in practice, you got to go short sleeve. Kind of what's the remedies that you guys have to kind of deal with the cold weather?
TA hates the weather more than we do.
They be out there with 9 layers of pants on. Like, dude can't even walk around. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he's come up to the press conference. He's taking like 5 minutes to take off his jackets and stuff like that.
He might have like 5 ski masks on his head at once. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. He don't tell us what to wear. Our guys are the ones that be like, Like, for instance, D-line, 2 weeks ago, they just told everybody, we not practicing. Y'all can't wear sleeves out here. And if you do, we're probably going to tear them off you. You know what I'm saying? So guys who are from Florida, who are from places that's warm, they had to suck it up. You know, like, that's just what the team, not the coaches, but the team itself is requiring out of us because they already been here for a while. They know what it's going to take. And being out there trying to fake like it ain't going to be cold on game day is probably going to harm you a little bit, you know? So, you know, we just go out there and really just have fun. It don't be that bad, honestly, if you're moving around and what you're supposed to do in practice.
Yeah, we've only had a couple days where it's like this sucks. But, I mean, even then, the energy doesn't necessarily change.
Like last week or 2 weeks ago, by the time everybody got out of the practice, we were supposed to start practice about 11:10. There was like 40 dudes shoveling the snow off the field. Like players, like we got a whole plow committee. You know what I'm saying? Like they supposed to go do that before practice. They got players out there with pushing bags, shoveling snow to the side. They probably did the whole field, 100 yards in 5-10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Just so we can go out there and ball and have a good day. So we ain't worry about that.
For sure.
We chose to come play up here, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely comes with it. But one last question for you guys. We both asked you the question already about what's been your favorite thing. I'm going to throw a twist on this last one. What's the most underrated thing about being here at Ferris State?
Underrated?
Yeah.
I got something.
What you got?
It ain't that nice. Like, in that the fact that it ain't that nice, I mean, you just kind of take stuff for what it is and grind it out. And I think that's where a lot of that toughness mentality comes from.
All right, I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's for sure. That's a good way to look at it. Like he's saying, to go a little bit deeper, what he means it ain't that nice, we didn't have a weight room. I mean, we had a weight room, but it was the rubber room.
Yeah.
You know, and before that, it was downstairs next to the, you know what it is.
Oh, yeah, the basement,
And it was like, we literally had to lift in like 4 different groups, but even that group was like split into 2 groups.
Yeah.
But you couldn't fit but like 10 dudes in there. And things like that, things like not having an indoor, really not what any other school who wins a national championship has.
Yeah.
And so we really feed on that. We don't take it in. I mean, there's some guys who are like, man, we want this, we want that, which I feel like, yeah, you should want some better things for yourself if you putting in work and things like that. And I feel like the powers that be are, you know, putting some money into things and like the weight room or the women's volleyball center, things like that. So it just takes time. I think once you get a little older, you realize like money don't just grow on trees. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we ain't won a national championship here till last year. So let's just keep doing it and we might have some better things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to build it and then people will come.
Success is going to be able to bring you guys the facilities that's definitely deserving of this team. But guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Good luck against West Florida and go Dogs.
For sure.
Go Dogs.
Big thanks to Carson and Mylik for stopping by. Pleasure to talk to those guys and certainly really insightful to see how they go about it. Because, I mean, this is a really unique situation for this football team, especially the position they're in now. And, I mean, really coming after the national championship, Joe, we had that whole experience. And then, of course, everybody afterwards is, that's that championship slump the next year. A lot of these teams fall back. We see the Rams after 1 year after the Super Bowl nearly collapsing this season. But these guys... no way. They're back at it, and they are hungry. 4 straight Final Four for the Bulldogs for football. So let's get right into the Ferris State Sports Report. Can't talk right now, but might as well start with the anchor bone. Brandon, Ferris State versus Grand Valley, 24-21 victory over the Lakers. What a time to be a Bulldog. I already said it already, but, man, it just was so exciting. I wasn't able to be there because I was in Vegas, as many of you know. George Strait concert, absolutely electric. But I was able to listen to it on the radio. Dude, an interception call at the end, top tier, arguably one of the best from Rob that we ever heard. But, man, this was a dogfight through and through. Right at the start, got a really big momentum boost with a block punt and then the touchdown from Carson. And then a little bit stagnant offense from the second and then partway into the third. But after that, it was basically all Bulldogs. A little bit of controversy that Grand Valley might bring up with a Mylik touchdown. But we know he was over the line, and it don't matter about it. But, Brandon, you were there for at least the first half before you went down to Detroit for your little Detroit sports trip, which was really cool. But, what was it like being at Lubbers and kind of reliving the Anchor Bone Part 2 from last year? Dude, it was an absolute blast to be on the sideline with those guys. And, I mean, I was able to catch 2.5 quarters of football down there. So I guess I will owe the entire, Ferris State community apology for holding us back, because it seemed once that I left,
Yeah,
the offense
here's the
got
bad luck,
going.
John,
So,
eh?
hey, I guess I'll take it. Now, if that's what we need to do to win a natty, hey, I'll go to California if that's what it needs to be. But anyway, no, it was a great victory all the way around. The environment was electric. Only 13,000 people there, as opposed
Surprising.
to we were talking about 20. But
I thought it was going to be more.
yeah, I think it was the cold. Honestly, that probably kept a lot of people out. It was really windy. I know, being on the sideline, I was having a little bit of trouble with photography because it was just so cold. I couldn't get my hands to stop shaking a little bit. So I should have brought my tripod. But anyway, that's just a personal problem on my behalf. But no, it was a fantastic game as far as the overall energy. I mean, the biggest stakes, getting to the Final Four, of course. And I mean, two top teams in the country going at it in the regional final. Certainly nothing else to say neat about that game as far as preparation and the hype it had. But I think overall, when you look back at this game, we heard from Mylik in the press conference, which you can find on the Ferris State Bulldogs YouTube channel if you haven't already seen it. But they definitely threw a lot of different looks at him on pressure, and I noticed that quite a bit in the first half. They did a really good job of getting pressure on Mylik, making a lot of these plays shortened down in time, not letting it develop as much as they would want it to. And really, they clogged the middle. There was really nowhere to go up the middle for the running backs. So it was definitely difficult at the start of the game for a lot of those rushing attacks. Got it going a little bit in the passing game with a couple of big plays, but they were so spotty and they were so far apart. It really didn't get a rhythm going until the second half. Then we started making some big plays, especially later in the game on 3rd down and 4th down. We were able to make some clutch conversions that ended up getting us into field goal range to end up getting that game-winning field goal by Eddie Jewett. But, I mean, it was a phenomenal game. The defense stepped up in a huge way, especially in the second half with the momentum all the Lakers' way going into halftime. So, I mean, this team really outperformed. I mean, we were able to get down the stretch and make a lot of great adjustments in the fourth quarter, especially by that coaching staff. I think they really did a great job of really flustering Grand Valley's game plan overall. They really went run heavy a little bit in the first half. It was working at parts and times and made some big plays through the air with a lot of contested catches. They got a really good wide receiver core there in Allendale. But I think our DBs especially stepped up huge in the second half. I mean, you mentioned already Joe Centel's interception to seal it on the final play was just a big example of that, because really their offense got a little more stagnant in the second half opposed to us in the first. And of course, the best team always wins with a better second half.
And Vincent Cooley had an interception too, which was pretty big to see. But on the quarterback side, obviously Mylik was the lone passer, and it went 13 for 27, 118, 23rd longest. No TDs with the interception, but the rushing game was really where we took it up. Only the quarterback scored rushing TDs, oddly enough. Mylik with 1, Carson with 2. He had 6 attempts for 15 yards. Obviously, the first play of the game from scrimmage for us, able to run it in, and then later on getting kind of the one to seal a deal there. But Eddie Jewett, I think, was the name of the game for that one. Really coming in big with that field goal to put us up 3 was just really what we needed to see. And I think that really gave us the momentum for the defense to step up. I was a little nervous listening to it because, they were kind of pounding away. There was a chance for them to ice the game kind of at midfield. They got the first down, but when Katie Peterson kind of launched it up and let a little bit too much air under it, gave our Bulldogs a little bit too much time to get set up on the defensive side, and we were able to do that. But Brendan, you got something to say?
Yeah, the biggest stat that I noticed here in the difference in overall offensive statistics, one of the biggest things I saw was from the previous game. I mean, they did a really good job of establishing the run. They had 223 net rushing yards. Grand Valley did in that first game, and in this game, I believe they had only 142. That was a big overall, or no, 121 actually. I read that one backwards. 121 yards. That was a big deal, especially in the second half, because I think they started the game with about 80, so we held them about 40 in that second half, and that was huge. Time. But the fourth quarter momentum was really the biggest part of the game. We were able to really turn it down in the fourth quarter and really lock it up. That's where we kind of let the game slip away at our place here earlier this season when they were able to score 10 unanswered in that fourth quarter. That was the biggest thing in that game was, or I should say 12 actually unanswered, but they really got a great job of being able to establish that momentum in that fourth quarter. And we really kind of flipped the script in this game when we needed it most. And that was a really big testament to this team. And I think overall with how they responded, it was a resilient game. They played 2 really tough teams right now in the road. And of course, in our last episode, which you can check out in the feed, as we talked about how really stacked this overall Midwest region was. And right now, it kind of even looks like it might get easier, but it's not going to get any easier with West Florida coming to town because they're a really talented team. All top 4 teams are really talented. 3 of them were in the semis last year. The only change, Valdosta replaced by West Florida. So this is going to be a really fun bracket, Joe. Now we got the reseed. We got the Argonauts again. Going to be a really good matchup.
And I can't wait to talk about that more Thursday. It's going to be a rematch of the 2019 semifinals where West Florida knocked us out. It's the same situation. We were number 1 there. West Florida's number 4. They came to town and were able to shock us and shock the world. And then they ended up winning the national championship that year against Minnesota State. But Colorado School of Mines and Shepherd on the other side, they came out of their regions. But like you said, Brandon, our region was the toughest. And I think that's the main reason why we got number 1, because you had Shepherd, who honestly had a better record than us, but it was just kind of the way the cards fell at the end. So it's going to be interesting. I think Colorado School of Mines are going to take that one, and we're going to see what's their mascot?
The Ore Diggers.
Ore Diggers. Yes. Well, I know they have like a donkey, but I didn't know if it was like.
I think it's. I think it was called the Ore Diggers.
School would be named the donkey. Yeah. Well, anyway,
yes.
It might be an Ore Digger versus Bulldog championship at the end, but we got to get through West Florida first.
Yes.
So that's going to be a big one, and can't wait to talk about that more on Thursday.
Hold the football.
Well, I mean, the show will come out Friday, but we'll talk about it Thursday.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Hold the football against West Florida. That's where they got to this point, was they forced turnovers in that regional title game they played.
3 INTs too.
Yeah, and that's going to be something to watch, especially how they scheme defensively and how we're going to adjust in our game plan overall. And I think that's going to be a really good matchup coming up, because I thought there was a lot of other good teams in that regional that just didn't quite make it out. But there's really, these are the 4 teams that I think a lot of people probably could predict into the final overall. I mean, you would definitely see like potentially putting in Angelo State and some of those other, maybe UIP had a really good season. They had a run as well, but all these teams are championship battle tested. These are the 4 teams overall outside of really Valdosta that have established themselves in the semifinals the last 4 years. So this is going to be a really fun matchup across the board. Noon kickoff for this upcoming game at Top Taggart at noon. Rock the top one more time. Let's send our boys to McKinney.
Start tailgating. I don't know if I'll work. Maybe I might tailgate. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be a great game nonetheless. Men's ice hockey was also in action. Big upset sweep against the number 10 team in the nation, Minnesota State. Huge one. Huge 6 points. This is what we were talking about basically all throughout the year, Brandon, that we need to start focusing on those sweeps, because getting those 6 points compared to the 3 or even the 2 when we get to the overtime or sharing the points and stuff like that, that is not what's going to be able to propel us to the top of the CCHA standings. Getting the upsets against these big teams is going to be what's important. And that's what we did going into Mankato, getting the sweep 2-1 the first day, 3-2 on Saturday. Brandon, you love to see it.
Oh my gosh, you love to see it. I was so ecstatic. I was actually at the Griffins game Friday night. The Griffs weren't doing so good, so I was kind of checking out my phone. I saw we were up 2-0 after the first period. I'm like, okay, boys, I liked what we were seeing right now. And I mean, they really kept the hammer going. I mean, Minnesota State scored early in that third period on the power play, and it was kind of like everybody was kind of
everybody's trying to get up a little bit, something like that.
Oh, not this third period crap again. The boys locked it down, though. Huge job defensively across the board. When you watch film, you could see how dedicated this team was to not letting them get a single look near the pipes. I mean, block shots was absolutely huge. Ben Schulteis was a big part of that. He got the 3-star honoree in that first game. And I think overall, I mean, you saw really good performances across the board from the young guys. They weren't scared of the top 10 Maverick teams. So I think that was a really good overall game on Friday. And then really being able to propel that and roll that into Saturday and playing almost better, is good, if not better, in that second game overall. I mean, that was just fantastic to see, because these boys really played their butts off, and you could see it on paper. And I mean, you can watch the film, it's just like, wow, these guys knew exactly what they needed to do. They need to stop the offensive attacks, turn it into their own offense in transition, and being able to get a lot of those good looks, and even taking long looks. I mean, being able to shoot from the blue line, basically, if need be, to get a good shot on that, because those guys had some really ridiculous shots overall in the highlights this weekend. And it was just insane to see. Ben Schulteis got his first collegiate goal. Finally, that guy deserves it. He definitely could have deserved overall CCHA honor, but he's an honoree in our books for sure for the performance he had. Breck was awesome, dude. In night one. I mean,
same with Stein.
I mean, the next night. I mean, it could have been either one of them for how well those guys played, especially in the Saturday game. Andy Noel was a monster. He's been a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing keep progressing as a player. He's a good old fashioned, feels like a 90s enforcer. He'll run you into the boards and he'll take a nice slap shot from the blue line and be able to score for you. But I mean, he was really good this weekend overall. And the boys just all played fantastic in my mind. And that was what you needed to go against this big of a team. Goaltenders played fantastic. Defense sacrificed. Offense really played efficient, got a lot of quality looks, because Minnesota State outshot us quite a bit.
Yeah,
but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you put the shots on goal when you need to. So that was big time. Yeah, 10 shots and 13 saves from Minnesota State's goalkeeper. But that's the one thing that they've been struggling, especially losing Dryden McKay last year.
Yeah.
He was arguably could have been the greatest goaltender of all time for NCAA, but he fell a little bit short. But regardless, he was basically a brick wall that really held it down throughout the whole season. But out of 2 games, out of 73 shots that Logan Stein and Noah Giesbrecht faced combined, they made 70 saves. That is insane.
Absurd.
That is ridiculous. And I think you really could have given both of these guys were kind of running for CCHA goaltender of the week, but Giesbrecht just had the better save percentage. But I think that's big time for us to really think about it because, we might not be able to get as many shots on goal, but we've been able to capitalize on the ones that we have been. I mean, we saw with Bowling Green kind of slow down in the first and second period. I think the first night that we played them, but, we were able to kind of not really do too good, but then second night, able to really go out and do well with that. And our goaltending really stepped it up too. So I think we're really turning the corner right at the right moment. We got Northern Michigan coming to town at the end of this week, which is going to be a big test. They're near the top of the CCHA standings, if I'm not mistaken. I'll look that up real quick, Brandon, if you want to take over.
Sure. I mean, I think when you looked back, obviously CCHA players of the week with Giesbrecht and Noel, and obviously the 2 that were made mention, but it was an all-around team effort all the way around. And for how big those games are, we right now move above 500 in conference play, and we're right in striking distance because we got the Wildcats upcoming this weekend, which is a team that we can beat, Joe. If we can play like we did against Minnesota State, we can beat anybody in this conference. I firmly believe that. So it's going to be fun to look and see how this team plays. And just getting the honoree awards as well. Also shout out going back to football with Caleb Murphy getting the Gene Upshaw Lineman of the Year award. That's awesome for him as well. So that was just a really good thing to see across the board. All these guys getting individual recognition, but the best thing about these teams is when they're great, it's the chemistry, it's the culture, it's the being able to get around everybody within your roster to be able to spread that success around, because it's a team effort all the way across the board. You can have one individual great player, but still not be able to win as a lot of these other teams have done overall in years past that have been really good teams and just haven't quite got it together. But the Bulldogs always have been able to get it together when the big lights are shining on us. So that's a really big thing to see for this team. And now go back at home on our own ice against Northern, being able to get all those things that we did successfully against the Mavericks and put it up against Wildcats and see what happens.
Yeah, cannot wait to see what we're able to do with that, especially seeing with the momentum that we got from this weekend is really going to propel us forward, and it's going to be some good stuff to see, I think, in the next couple of weeks in CCHA play. Men's basketball and women's basketball were also in action over the weekend. Played Grand Valley on Thursday, and then Davenport on Sunday. 2 huge wins for the men's program. Bounce back split for the women's program, earning their first loss against Grand Valley, but then coming back against Davenport, winning a close one. It was a good weekend, I feel like, for both of these teams. I think we played pretty well on both sides of the ball. For the men's side, our offense was just clicking on all levels. 97-68 win over Grand Valley, and then 103-54 against Davenport. That was just really great to see. There wasn't really much room for improvement, I feel like, after this. You didn't really give the ball up too much. You played really good on the defensive side, getting the rebounds when you needed to, got second chance opportunities when it came to offensive rebounds, and our team just was lights out from 3 basically all weekend. You saw Ben Davidson come in clutch against Grand Valley. He had, 4 threes in 3 minutes or something like that. He was lighting it up. Ethan Erickson was pulling up heat checks from basically half court when he got hot. He was able to sing a few of those. So I think you really look at this team and we're heating up right at the right time. Going to go on an early season run, and especially against 2 tough teams. Davenport was reigning GLIAC championship from last year. Grand Valley's not a tough team, or not an easy team to beat, and to be able to go in and beat them by that much is very impressive.
Yeah, and starting off with a Sunday game, that game was personal. That Davenport game was personal. When you start this game with the energy, with just the overall get after and not let your foot off the gas for the entirety of this game, it was personal. They knew that Davenport was not better than them when they lost to them overall in that GLIAC tournament, and that was a huge revenge game against them. Scoring 10 unanswered to start the game was just incredible to see. We ended up winning at halftime by a score of 57-22. So it was really over by the end of the first half because we just kept pounding them, and I kind of felt bad for them. But at the same time, it's revenge. So, but when you shoot 57.1% from 3, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, you usually win basketball games when you shoot that well.
Usually.
Yeah, 12 of 21 overall from the 3-point line, 21 of 28 from the line. That's going to get the job done, because I think the biggest thing we give this team a lot of credit for shooting the basketball well. I mean, we mentioned Ethan Erickson, Ben Davidson, all these guys, and everybody can shoot the rock exceptionally overall without this team from top to bottom. I mean, we saw Dang Rang go 3 for 3 from long range at the Davenport game. He had 23 points and 8 rebounds. He had a monster game. Good to see him back fully healthy and playing that way. As well as Solomon Arigbu had 18 points. He had a really good game as well. And I think when you look at this team, we give the shooting credit, like I mentioned, but overall, the toughness of this team is definitely underrated because these guys really do a great job of playing physical against a lot of these other physical teams that want to try to wear them down, try to tire them out, but you can't really do that. So I don't know why they try. But I mean, when you look at the boards, especially in this game, I mean, overall, they flat out dominated. It was 43-26, and being able to keep the basketball, keep the turnovers down, and force them the other way, that's just going to give you more success overall throughout this entirety of the season, because that's definitely a mark that we saw earlier this year, especially in the first couple of tournaments. They were playing really good basketball. They just couldn't hold on to it long enough. There was too many turnovers. There wasn't enough good, crisp ball movement, communication. There was just some things that were a little out of sync, and now we're starting to see the gelling happen a little bit, and now these guys are putting up phenomenal performances. I mean, across the board, you got 5 guys in double figures in the Davenport game, and I mean, Grand Valley, you saw a lot of variety of scoring as well, and I mean, especially Ben Davidson. I mean, geez, just pull up, why don't you? Like, knock it down. For it, I mean, by the time at that game I was watching, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to probably shoot from half court next time he comes down. But we ran out of minutes before that would happen. So, but he had a fantastic game against Grand Valley. I mean, that was a really breakout performance for him. 29, 10 of 12 from the field, 6 of 7 from deep. Ridiculous. Ethan Erickson was also 4 of 10, and he had 14 points. His performance was well needed as well, as a lot of these other guys in double figures as well. I thought Michael Bingham had a really good game off the bench. He was 6 of 10 for 12, as well as 9 boards for him. Really good game across the board. This team is really looking like they're legit, and I mean, they're just proving it. I mean, going in as number 1, they're proving to everybody that they're not slumps, that we shouldn't look at them as a degraded team from last year. They're locked and reloaded, and they're ready to get after once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you look at the women's side too, not as successful of a weekend, but I think you can really take away a lot of positives from this. Came to the Grand Valley game 5-0 against, what was it? Grand Valley's number 1 in the nation, right?
Correct, yes.
And you could really tell they were a team that really didn't miss a lot of mistakes, a lot of layups and a lot of stuff like that. They didn't fail at, which was kind of the difference, because we had a lot of looks, I feel like, at the start, but we just couldn't capitalize on them. Just threes that we should have been able to make that we missed. I think we went like 0 for 10 to start the game, or something like that from the field. So it was a little bit rough to kind of get it going, but I think right when we hit our stride to kind of second quarter, going into the half, then coming out for the third quarter, that's kind of when we started to pick it up. I mean, when you lose only by 8 points in conference, or to start conference play against the best team in the nation, that's a pretty solid game. You really shouldn't hang your head too low about that. But the big thing is really just kind of making sure the fouls stay a little bit more conservative. I think we gave up a little bit too many too early to let them go in the bonus in the first half, as well as capitalize on the layups. I feel like we missed a couple that we should have made. There were some contested ones that you can't really do too much about. You're kind of throwing up trying to get the foul, which is important. But there was a couple where I feel like the mind was just racing a little bit too fast before we could kind of set the feet down, get the dribble down, and then be able to make it go into the basket. But Grand Valley, they're a tough team to beat. We're going to have our work cut out for us when we go to Allendale for sure. But they had two girls above double digits starters, and then their bench really came in clutch too. Three of them kind of had some really good production off the bench, 14 and 15 for Hannah Koulis and Paige Van Stee, who came off the bench for them. But when you look at our starters, we kind of killed it. I mean, Chloe, I don't have 26. Mallory Carney with 18. She really picked it up. Shauna Day with 10, and Kenzie Bowers with 7. I'm kind of interested to see what Kenzie Bowers is going to do, because I feel like she could kind of take the ball a little bit more and do something with it. But I feel like she's just playing a little bit more like team heavy, which is nice, what you want to see. But I would like to see her kind of just be able to take the ball a little bit, kind of work on the drive, and then be able to take over every once in a while. Yeah,
Kenzie Bowers is a very talented player, and she's still kind of starting to find her role on this team, I think, for sure. And I think we'll definitely see the benefits going on maybe in the second half of the season, if not right away. I think that she's just really getting time to really flow in, but she's going to be a fantastic asset when she starts on fire. We've seen it. I mean, me and Joe have personally seen it when she was at Kent City in high school. She's a very fantastic basketball player. So she could be a huge threat. But I really like the way overall this team responded. I mean, going down 11-0 to start this game right away, 20-5 at the end of the first. It was not looking very good.
Not good at all.
It's a really tough situation to go into halftime and still being trailing by 16 points. But they did a really good job, especially in the third quarter, being able to establish that dominance a little bit early on, getting the first bucket and being able to go on a little bit of a run to start that. But I think you're right, Joe. I think really missed a lot of puppies. That was really a hard thing to see, was a lot of those looks that we had were open and they just didn't go down. And we started getting them a little bit in the second half, third, fourth quarter a little bit, but it was just a little bit too little too late basically by that point to try to get it back in a roll. But I think you still saw a lot of good resiliency from this team overall. I mean, you mentioned Chloe Idoni had a really good game down low with 26 points. I believe she had 8 boards to finish this game. So that was clutch on her part. But I think really you see a lot of this great overall you get this great overall talent on this team, being able to score in different players, being able to score in a high volume is definitely going to be well needed, especially going into the postseason. Deshauna Day's really improved. She's been a defensive lockdown player for us, but she's been able to score the ball too. She had 10 points in this game, so that's really good to see her improvement, as well as Mallory being able to facilitate and knock down shots when she needs to, with 6 assists. That's definitely going to be well needed for this team. But I think that we played this team really well. Grand Valley is the number 1 team in the country for a reason. They play really efficient. They play really clean. Maybe outside of the little travel skid we had going on in the first 5 minutes.
Like 10, 12 travels called
in the first 6 minutes or something crazy.
Were really whistle happy. I will say there was like a couple of them that, even with fouls, like there was like some on both sides where I was like, that is not a foul. I don't know why you would call that. And there's a couple too where they called like charges and blocks that should have gone either way. So not the best officiated game, but I still think we were able to really overcome a lot of downsides in that game and come back. But hey, bounce back against Davenport the following 2 days later, 67-55 win over the Panthers. It was pretty huge. I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, our team really played solid. It was more spread out with scoring. I don't think, or Chloe still had 15, but when you look at starters and kind of the bench, you really saw a lot more spread the wealth kind of deal. But I think Grace Sullivan, if you really look at what she was able to do in Grand Valley, especially Davenport too, not a whole lot of points with that, but she's able to facilitate the ball really well. Her handling is something that was really surprising. We didn't really see a whole lot of that last year, seeing as she had pretty limited minutes, but she's seeing, 20, 25 minutes a game. And so I think what you're going to see from her is, especially coming off the bench, you're going to see some teams that are going to be really surprised and kind of thrown back. And that's when we're going to be able to really go on runs, is because we have the depth on the bench to be able to really keep teams on their toes and really make it so that way they might get tired and kind of and stuff like that. So Grace Sullivan is going to be a weapon later on. Chloe Idoni keeping up what she's been able to be putting down. Kenzie Bowers as well, 13 on the second day. So that's what we like to see from her, kind of be able to step up. And then Mallory McCartney doing her thing with assists and points too.
Yeah, absolutely. You need those glue pieces. I know we talked about the men's team with Jimmy Scholler. I think
it's a glue guy.
Yeah, Mallory McCartney is the same way for this team. And you can make arguments for other players too from either side. Everybody needs that glue to be able to keep this team locked in and sticking together and being able to move on all cylinders. But I think when you looked overall at this Davenport game, the biggest thing was being able to respond from that Thursday game, go out with a vengeance to start the first quarter and establish the tempo first, I think was huge. I mean, winning that first quarter 22-14 was huge, and being able to really ride that out, play really well defensively in the fourth quarter. I thought really won us this game, especially defensively. I thought they played really well. I mean, holding a team to 55 points is a really good feat. And I mean, especially for not lighting it up offensively. We shot the ball really well. We didn't shoot it as much overall and compared to some other games we played this year, but still really efficient overall. I thought we did a fantastic job from the free throw line. This is a very physical game, 49 free throws combined from either team. So you kind of saw that physicality throughout the duration of the game. But being able to out-rebound that team, they're very physical. I mean, 38-36 overall defensive rebounds. We ended up winning. So that's really huge for us, or I should say total rebounds looking. But yeah, I think that when you looked at this, the depth really prevailed. Mia Riley, 12 points off the bench. That was really clutch. Imago Nabagwa had some really good minutes with her 7 points as well as 6 rebounds. You would have had an even better game if there wasn't a foul out call later in the game. That was kind of questionable. But being able to really have her fill in for Chloe Idoni was really huge, and that's going to be beneficial for this team. And Coach Westendorp's got this team really rolling. And despite overall the first loss against Grand Valley, they responded really well against a really good team, and I think that they're going to keep moving that forward throughout the rest of the season. And got some 2 big ones on deck coming up with Northern and Michigan Tech.
Yep, absolutely. 2 of these teams are, especially starting off the first kind of road trip of the year, lengthy one, especially the next 2 weeks coming up.
Yeah, I mean, Walsh and Ursuline, those 2 teams, will definitely be interesting to watch. I mean, those will be kind of more holiday games. So how do you respond in those holiday games? Will really tell the tale of a lot of these really, really good teams, because we saw, especially like the men's side last year, they went on a little bit of a skid overall at the beginning of the holidays, especially that Lewis game. I remember they didn't play their best, but then they responded really well over those games. So these are those games where it's like everything's a little bit out of funk. How do the great teams respond? So that'll be interesting to see how those, and especially with the momentum they hopefully get from the trip up north to Marquette and Houghton.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot wait. What other sports were in action this weekend?
Well, not else really much going on right now. I mean, we got everything else concluded for the most part.
Okay. Did we talk about soccer on Thursday?
We kind of did, yeah, but it definitely was a little, I think we kind of mentioned the pregame of it. We didn't really recap it, but it was a great run for them overall. Ended up losing to Westchester in really valiant fashion. They played a really good game against the top team in the country, which ended up falling in the championship game. That was a really big upset on the other side there. So I think really when you looked at this game, I mean, a lot of people anticipate us not having a chance, analysts and all those sort of people that were just kind of like, man, Westchester's just a team that's going to just roll through everybody, which obviously they were wrong. But I think really when it came down to it, we were very resilient, and I think we played a physical game, and it really got him a little flustered, it seemed like at times, being able to respond in the first half. Brindley Bell able to score off the header. Set pieces, Joe. We mentioned how this team
where it's at, man,
improved so much over the second half. I think that was a huge difference in how we played, because a lot of teams really didn't have the preparation to take on some of our set pieces, and it definitely showed overall in this game. But
Brindley Bell was like wide open, like right in the middle.
Yeah, like it was just crazy to see how that play developed. But I think overall there was a really good run from this team. I mean, we can just give a clap for them. I mean, they just played phenomenal throughout this entire season. Getting to Seattle is an accomplishment for anybody, and especially for this team, definitely for how they started off a little bit slower, being able to pick it up, make that little, you call it a Cinderella run, and definitely put up together a valiant effort all the way across the board. So it's really good to see a lot of this great play overall throughout the entirety of the tournament to get to that point. Really gave the best team in the country the best run of our money, basically. They ended up getting a good shot, able to score there in that 65th minute to give themselves a 2-1 win. But overall, this team played really well. Coach Henson's team was definitely just showed all the resiliency all season long, despite the struggles, despite the injuries, able to get through it, get to this point. That's what championship teams are made of. This team certainly can be remembered as a regional championship team because they earned it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see a lot more of that in the next coming years. 10 returners that saw significant action on the team that are going to be back on the team next year, which is going to be huge for the team. Cannot wait for that. And I mean, Coach Henson as well has just been able to turn this program around so quickly from when he was able to take over. I mean, last three NCAA tournament trips in the last 4 years. That's what you like to see. And honestly, we didn't really do anything too much with success-wise before that. So really love what we're seeing from the team here. Daria, I think, is going to be someone who's going to get even better for next year, which is honestly impossible to think, seeing that she's already lights out. But I think you're going to see just the consistency step it up, and you're going to see her just become already more of a brick wall than she is. And you're going to see, I think, our defense just get even deeper, as well as our offense just really pick it up too. Got some people leaving, but I think we're going to be able to pick it up right where we left off.
Yeah. Shout out to soccer for their great run. And it was really
historic.
Truly a great following to see their success all season long.
I had to write that article about how we lost. That was tough.
Yeah, I could imagine that was tough. But I mean, you certainly had a lot of great positives to write about this team.
Yeah,
overall.
absolutely.
So throughout the entirety of this season across the board, it's been a pleasure to cover some of these teams for all the success that they've had in Ferris State. Overall, one team, 17 teams, one team. That motto really rings true with everybody across the board. Everybody roots for everybody. And that's really one of the things that set Ferris State apart, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You don't see that in a lot of other schools, actually. Everybody's kind of separate.
Yeah, you really don't. And I think that's what sets Ferris State apart. But I think that's going to do it for the Ferris State Sports Report. Brandon, will happen in the second half of the show very shortly. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Are you a Ferris State student interested in getting into audio production, music, podcasting, or even DJing? Bulldog Radio could be the place for you, with plenty of opportunities and hands-on experience within not only these realms, but the marketing and social media opportunities outside. Join us to have your voice heard. No other place than Bulldog Radio.
Here we go. Second half of the show. College football, of course, is in the news all over the place with a lot of different reasons why. We'll get to all those here in a minute. The main one everybody's been watching for, especially since the big season began in late August, college football playoff has finally been decided, and 2 Big Ten teams have survived and prevailed. Number 1 seed Georgia, we saw that one coming. The Bulldogs
pretty basic.
They were dominant all season long. No reason they shouldn't be. Michigan, of course, with the big win over Ohio State. Big Ten championship blowout over Purdue. They played fantastic. They earned themselves the 2 seed. And then the 3 seed, TCU, despite falling to Kansas State, they survived. They make their way in to the playoff. And after USC
that makes sense.
Collapses. Yeah, I do think it makes sense. USC collapses in a monster game against Utah. Fall out of the top 4 and are replaced by who other than the Buckeyes of Ohio State, sitting right behind at 5.
Had to.
So it's going to be monstrous. And I think everybody talking about this matchup, it's really coming down to one outcome that everybody wants. It's Michigan, the 4 beating the 1 and the 2 beating the 3.
Yep.
And the
you want to see a rematch.
You want to see the game for the national championship.
Yeah, that one would be crazy to see. I think this is probably one of the most accurate college football playoffs that we've got in a very long time. One thing though, I don't understand why Tennessee was ranked below Alabama. That's like the only thing. But I mean, it's 5-6, so it really doesn't really matter. Or was it 6-7? Can't remember.
Yeah, I think there was Bama was 5, and then were they 6? No, yeah, I think they were 5.
Tennessee was 6, Alabama was 5. So yeah, but this was probably one of the most accurate ones that we've seen so far. TCU was, the Big 12 this year was, 6. As much as I say they were fraudulent, the Big 12 that was fraudulent. You really can't knock them because K-State was what, 11th right now. I don't think they dropped at all from I think they were like 10th at the game, and then or something like that. But you look at the conference that they played in, it was arguably the best. So it makes sense that they didn't move. They're a 1-loss team. You can't take a 1-loss team out and put a 2-loss team in. No. That would just be ludicrous. So it makes sense. 2 undefeated teams, and the only 2 undefeated teams and the only 2 1-loss teams are in the playoff. I'm very excited for this Georgia-Ohio State game. I feel like it's going to be really cool. I'm excited to see a CJ Stroud versus Stetson Bennett matchup because, to be honest, I'm not really the biggest fan of Stetson Bennett. I feel like he's a guy who definitely is a college quarterback. I don't think he's got really much going for him after college, which is going to be interesting to see. But I'm kind of hoping this is like the only time I'll be rooting for Ohio State because I want to see a 2 versus 4 national championship. But this Michigan versus TCU game, I think you're going to see TCU come back with a vengeance. They're going to really come hard against this Michigan team. But, you got J.J. McCarthy. You got a really tough Michigan defense. You got an offense that's been clicking. You got Donovan Edwards, who just owned Ohio State just a week before and then came up big against Purdue. A little bit slow in that Big Ten championship, but able to pick it up at the end. But, dude, this college football playoff is going to be crazy.
It is going to be crazy. And I love the discrepancy they kind of had with the college football playoff. And I know we had a discussion about this on a previous episode, maybe a year ago, about how the college football playoff kind of uses some of a little bit of everything overall from as far as the media, the coaches, the analytics, the record, strength of schedule, all this kind of wallop together. Be interested to see how it goes. Because you looked at a little bit of the some of the other teams, like USC was ranked 10th, I believe, in the college football playoff. I think they were way higher in some of the overall rankings in some of the other teams. Like they were 8th, I see here, the AP poll that Joe pulled up. So, that's a little bit of discrepancy overall. And I think you saw a little bit of that with other teams, like Clemson was 10th overall in the AP. The committee thought they were excellent. They put them at 7. So a lot of these other teams that played really well throughout the season got some recognition overall. And we got some great bowl games coming up. The Orange Bowl, go figure. Let's put Tennessee and Clemson together. That one's gonna
be cool. This is gonna be the most orangest Orange Bowl of all time.
Yeah, that one was interesting. I thought there was a really weird choice though. I think
this is gonna be a pretty good game though.
No, I think that's a good game. The game that I was kind of like when I overall looked at some of the matchups was on. Kansas State against Alabama is definitely an interesting game. And I think the biggest thing people are kind of wondering is why necessarily those teams are kind of put together. I understand Kansas State's played really well. And overall, they've really earned themselves a definite contention for a major bowl game. It just doesn't seem as fair as a lot of these other games. So it's kind of interesting to see those two paired together in the Sugar Bowl. But I think
Sugar Bowl is not even gonna be close.
No, that's the thing. And
to me, not even gonna be close.
Yeah, to me, Alabama is much more power heavy than Kansas State. But I think
Penn State got on the Rose Bowl. How is that not Purdue?
Yeah, well, Purdue didn't play as well necessarily throughout the season because they also
I guess so.
They did have 4 losses. So
I always thought it was just a runner. If I always thought they did. Whoever was the runner-up of the Big Ten championship would get the.
I think they usually pair the Pac-12 and the Big Ten together. But I think it's usually the next highest ranked team, which oftentimes is also the team that loses in the college football playoff or loses out of the college football playoff, or the first one's out, because there's always one team, if not two, into the playoffs. So, but yeah, I think definitely what I would have loved to see, I would have loved them to switch Tulane with Alabama. I want to see USC play Bama and Tulane play K-State.
That would have been a lot cooler.
I think you would have seen some really interesting games overall from there.
This Sugar Bowl is going to be like a 45 to 20 game. It is not going to be.
It has potential for that. That's what's
I would have loved to see it Alabama versus USC, because you really could have seen obviously Caleb Williams got injured, so I don't know how much you're going to see from him there, but you could have really saw if USC was more of a fraudulent team this year, because Pac-12, not the best team, not the best conference. But I mean, you saw Utah; they really came in clutch against them. But I just don't think you would look at Big 12 versus SEC. It's basically like older brother versus newborn child is what it is.
Yeah, I think I wanted to see this game, and here's the biggest reason why. Both of these guys, they don't care about this bowl game. You know what they care about. Next April, right?
Yeah.
Why not have them go against each other and be able to prove their draft stock? Because these are two of the guys that apparently
draft ready quarterbacks.
Yeah, these are two of the quarterbacks that a lot of NFL executives say are worth tanking for. Bryce Young and Caleb Williams. And I thought that was very surprising. And CJ Stroud was not on that list, by the way. That some executives were saying, which was interesting to me. Maybe on some other ones that haven't said anything, but some of the ones that have said stuff.
It's Ohio State quarterback, so you can't really knock them, though. Yes. Ohio State quarterbacks do not translate. I mean, unless it's other than Justin Fields, but it still took 3 years, and it's really not all there yet. He's found the system now. He's found rushing, but he's not passing. He's a little bit,
Right. Is he going to become a Lamar? Is he going to become a Jalen Hurts type quarterback? That's what people want out of Justin Fields. Has he gotten to that level yet? No, not quite. And especially with the pieces around him, I think that has more importance than a lot of people other realize. But that would have been the two interesting matchups I would have liked to see to switch those for the Cotton and Sugar Bowl. Overall, still pretty good matchups. It's going to be fun. Some other notable bowl games that were drawn, I thought will be interesting. LSU Purdue in the Citrus Bowl might be interesting. I think that could be a fun game overall. I think some other ones on Iowa and Kentucky could be an interesting game.
Notre Dame, South Carolina might be a good game.
That could be a good game. Spencer Rattler, our boy, is playing not too shabby right now.
The best player ever.
Yeah, we might have to save the slander for that one. Oregon, North Carolina should be a shootout offensively. That game on paper should be fantastic.
Ole Miss versus Texas Tech is probably going to be a good one.
That's probably going to be a good game as well. I agree.
A surprisingly good matchup there.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be better than some people else see. But yeah, some games later in the year definitely look better as well. For overall this slate of bowl games, I think it should be very interesting to see some of these other teams later in the season, how they respond overall throughout the entire season. We've seen how well they are, but how they play basically with a month break is always really interesting to see, because a lot of these teams are diving into game plans almost all the time, and just to see how they play overall will be interesting.
Many bowl games. Some of these games look so bad. Troy versus UTSA is probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them that you're
Louisville versus Cincinnati, meh.
That was okay, I would say.
It's okay, but it's not like a big one.
Washington State you want the other teams that play in the less powerful conferences to have some of these big games, but you know that just TV viewership, they're going to be looking at the overall margin if it's going to be profitable or not. True.
You see North Texas coach situation? How he got fired after winning the conference championship?
I did not actually hear about that.
Yeah, so I just saw a little bit. I was like on Instagram when I saw it. I'll try to look it up here. North Texas football coach fired.
Yeah.
They won the conference championships, or I think they were like right behind it or something like that. But they fired him because they lost to UTSA in the conference championship.
Really?
Which is surprising, because that was like one of their best finishes they've ever had.
What was the record?
Let's get out of there. For this year, I think they were like only had 1 or 2 losses.
Really?
Yeah, North Texas fires football coach Seth Luttrell after 7 seasons.
Yeah, I see his overall record was 44, which is not good. But why would you fire him after your best season?
North Texas,
that doesn't make sense to me.
6-2. That's not terrible.
They were 7-6 overall. That's not very good, but still, I mean, you got to the conference championship game.
Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at it, it's a very low conference. USA is a very low conference.
Yeah, I mean they are. I mean, I'll give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt. They do play they usually have like 2 games where they have to play the higher Power 5 teams. Like I know like there was a couple games like where you saw like a Florida Atlantic was going to be playing against Alabama type of, I don't think that was the exact
They
game.
play like Memphis was a big one, I guess.
Like they're playing some of these higher level teams at the start of the year. So you kind of have that feeling for them, but still overall, that's not like a great conference overall.
Wait, SMU, I'm trying to see if like they had to play big teams or not.
I think they almost did, but I mean,
Not a whole lot of them.
no, I guess that really when you look
But the
at
wins that they got were blowouts.
Yeah.
Almost, other than the Rice game.
that is interesting.
48-27 or 40 over 13 over Western Kentucky, 47-27, 45-28. Yeah, they put up points on the board, but
This is actually kind of
it
confusing.
just must be a very hot and cold. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do now. They're probably
Yeah.
going to tank after this because if they're not already a good team and you're getting a new coach and he has like not any of his recruits.
Yeah, Rice played USC at the beginning of the year. That was one notable.
Speaking-
You want to know the final score of that game?
What one?
It was 66-14.
Speaking of coaches getting their recruits, Deion Sanders heading to Colorado. Did you see that one?
Go Buffs, I guess.
Oh yeah, Buffs are
brother.
gonna be insane. Already 1,000 players in the transfer portal. A lot of players were tweeting at Coach Prime, being like, "I'll play for you." Like, there's a lot of 5-star, 4-star recruits that were are redshirting this year at some Power 5 schools, some big schools. That hey, I'll go play for you. I mean, if you saw his press conference or if you saw his conference with the Colorado players already, he said, "I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis." We got 10 to 12 players already coming over, and you're probably going to see even more from Jackson State. So that's going to be interesting. You already have Shadur already.
Starting quarterback.
He's a quarterback, so you already have that going for him. Travis Hunter is for sure going to transfer. You're going to see who's their like other wide receiver.
I looked up his name the other day.
I saw it the other day. But their wide receivers are probably going to come over. Their defense is going to come over. All that Deion Sanders was saying at Jackson State is like, give me good offensive line and we'd be the best team in the SWAC. So, I mean, that's what you got. And if you give Shadur a good offensive line, he's going to be able to really create some damage. So it's very exciting to see what Colorado's going to be able to do with that. A huge pay jump for Coach Prime. He's making $29.5 million over a 5-year deal with Colorado. You want to know what he's making at Jackson State? $300,000.
Was it really?
That's what it says on Google.
Wow. That is interesting.
According to sports.betmgm.com.
Interesting.
That was his base salary. So that doesn't include incentives or anything. So he probably could have made like close to $1 million or something like that with winning conference championships and stuff like that. But you really got to give him credit. I mean, the guy really brought a lot of attention to HBCU football. I mean, you saw a lot more coverage. It was first ever college game day brought to Jackson State, which was really cool to see. I think, a lot of people are knocking him for, hey, I'm like, you spent 2-3 years at this place and you're just going to bounce. That's what he said all the time. He's like, I'm not opposed to leaving Jackson State.
No,
I'm open to taking other coaching jobs. And for him to be able to kind of stick to his word, as well as kind of staying classy about it. I mean, he didn't really beat around the bush or anything. He told guys like, hey, I'm bringing people. You might not be having a job. You might not be having a school to play for upcoming this next fall. So get in the transfer portal or you better get ready to fight for your spot, which was honestly very respectable. You can say all you want about it. But that guy, I mean, he stuck to his words. He stuck to his guns.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing I respect about Deion as a person as well as a coach is his word.
He keeps it straight.
Yeah, he keeps it transparent and he sticks to what he believes in, regardless if that's necessarily the orthodox or unorthodox method of doing things. And which I thought that was really funny with, I don't know if you heard the comment from the AD when the media asked him if they have all the money ready. He's like, well, we'll figure that out. And basically, he said in a nutshell, like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And he's like, yeah, sorry, any person attending Colorado Boulder, your tuition's about to go up $10,000.
Yeah.
So they can pay for Deion Sanders.
Well, that's true. It says in his contract, Brian Howell tweeted, he would owe CU $15 million if he leaves in his first year, $10 million if he leaves in the second, $8 million in the third, $5 million in the fourth. But if they fire him at any point, he gets 75% of the whatever is remaining on the contract.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a kind of contract we're going to see going through because we've seen a lot of coaches that have been fired early for fully guaranteed money. And it's like, oh my God.
Coach, you had $17 million.
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, you're just going to be forking up money for the next 20 years. I mean, anybody that knows about, just the fact that you got guys that were still getting paid overall. The Bobby Bonilla day, of course, is one of the more notable ones of him still being paid by the Mets for his his near lifetime contract for those that know about that. But just those sort of things is definitely that was starting to be like the new standard was full satisfactory, full guaranteed contracts. I mean, you see guys, they were starting to get a lot of that money overall, like Aaron Rodgers were getting that kind of money. And now everybody's kind of like, ooh, I don't know if we want to necessarily do that, because anything happens in football. I mean, guys get injured all the time. Sometimes they don't come back the way that they were. Sometimes scheme fit doesn't work out overall. We've seen a lot of great coaches that have made jumps, Scott Frost, and they haven't put it together with the programs that they're at. Now you got other guys. Even Matt Rule was kind of in that with the NFL. Now he's going to Nebraska to take his place. So we'll see how that goes. But with overall, I think everybody's talking about the press conference that he had at Colorado. And some people are taking it in different ways. I love it. And the reason why is when you look at where they were as a program, they have not had a winning season since 2016.
Yeah.
They have been pretty much pitiful for what they have been, for lack of a better term.
Garbage overall, is what it's been. Garbage.
Yeah, they've been bad. I mean, this was a team this year that won one football game. In the Pac-12, they won one football game. They were 1-11. They were 1-11. How do you go as a Power 5 program?
What was their one win?
Their one win, I did look it up. I'm pretty sure that it was against, California. They won against Cal in overtime. That was their only game that they won against Cal. Somehow they pulled that off. But
what a game.
They were awful.
Pac-12 circles suck.
Yeah, I mean, it is bad. But what I appreciate about Deion, it says, things are going to change. If you're going to be one that's going to be trying to jump off the ship, you might as well do it now, because I'm going to make this a winning football program. He says that confidently. He was going to make this a winning program. And if you don't like the way
Jackson State, you know,
correct. Yeah. I love the hire. I think it's absolutely wonderful. One that I probably didn't expect overall. I thought he was probably going to go to Cincinnati personally, but I think this is just as good of a hire overall. But I think this is a really good way to set the tone. And a lot of former players, Dave Bakhtiari is one of them, that said this program's been mediocre for way too long. They need to shake stuff up. And Deion did that in his press conference last night or 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
I think that definitely is going to bring a lot of praise for him overall in Boulder right now.
Such a cold line. We're not here to compete, but to win, not to show up, but to show out, not to be among the rest, but to be the absolute best. We're coming to work, not to play. We're coming to kill, not to kick it. Baby, I got to believe that we're coming.
Woo.
Dude, if that
Deion's
doesn't,
got some quotes, man.
Dude, he is just a walking encyclopedia of just, I want to run through a brick wall for you. Like anything that he says is just like, let's get after it. And I think especially when you look at the guys that he's bringing, from the transfer portal as well as from Jackson State, and the guys that he's going to be able to recruit to there. I mean, the guy's personality is electric. I mean, if you even just watch videos around, like you already know that he's a guy that is so fun to be around. And you might say, hey, well, he's bringing so many people over, he's going to kick these guys out. It's like, at least being honest, like he's a guy who knows what it takes to win. I mean, he knows what it takes. He built a program that was insane at Jackson State just in 3-4 years. Yeah. So he knows what he's doing. Yeah, it'll be a little bit tougher because it's Pac-12, it's Power 5 school. But when you got that personality, when you got the talents that he does, and when you have the accolades of being the best corner to ever play, not even arguably, I feel like he's the best corner that's ever done it. So like, it's not that hard to believe that he's going to be able to turn this program around.
Yeah, I think there's so much positivity that can come from this hire. And some people, of course, kind of might rub with Deion a little wrong way, I guess, with how he conducts himself and how he's very flashy is the word that comes to mind. Of course, you look good, you play good, they pay good, of course. Yeah. So I think that's just kind of the way he rolls. But
especially when, on draft day, he was iced out and he said, I would have asked Detroit for so much money, they would have had to put me on layaway.
Of course.
You're a rookie quote. And you're saying that about a organization that was going to pay you millions. That's just insane.
Confidence.
Guy's confident. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes, of course. He is that guy. And I think that swagger, along with his philosophy, I think really makes a good football coach. And people respect Deion because of his transparency.
Exactly.
He will tell you what you need to do to be an NFL pro. He will tell you, and he can get you there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. But he knows, he has the experience. And just the way he conducts himself to a lot of these players is very relatable, right? Because that's where they all came from. They came from these high-tier high schools. They were getting all these good offers, and they wanted to play for a legitimate coach to get to the NFL and win conference and national championships.
Exactly.
And when you got a person that's been there, seen it, done it, and now is going to teach you how to get there, and especially a notable name like Deion Sanders, which, these players are thinking of, yeah, Deion's got the money to make this place pretty sweet. And that's what he did at Jackson State when he left, was he made the facilities beautiful. And all these guys can enjoy being at Jackson State. So he's going to do that at Colorado. Obviously, they already believe I have like a $100 million facility that they've already upgraded a couple of years back. But they're definitely going to be considering with everything that comes with playing at Colorado, with playing with Deion. And I think that's what's going to draw a lot of these transfers. He's already said, hey, hit me up. You guys know where to find me. At me on Twitter. I'll be in the get yourself in the portal and I'll find you. Make sure you just let me know where you're at, where you're from, and all that stuff. And all these, you're going to see 50, 100, 1,000 guys that are going to be wanting to play for Colorado and just to play with Deion Sanders. They don't probably care what the halls and the dining hall food is like. They don't probably care as much about all the buildings and how majestic the mountains are. It's playing for Deion Sanders, and it's playing for a Pac-12 championship, which, by the way, Pac-12 started to go downhill a little bit. So they're going to be playing against USC. They're going to be playing against Oregon probably in the next couple of years. And once they start building that thing up, man, they're going to be contending for some really good stuff. So really excited to see this hire as well. I think this is probably the most slam dunk hire overall. You have like the other guys like Matt Rule that's coming back to Nebraska, as well as some other notable hires like Luke Fickell to Wisconsin. But I think this one's probably the most slam dunk, hands down.
Yeah, this one is I think it's really going to shake up college football and how that kind of works out. I think a lot of coaches, especially with NIL and how much the transfer portal has morphed into kind of more of a free agency type deal, you're going to see a lot of players just really go for, not really play for the college anymore. They're going to be playing for the coach. And I think especially with what Deion Sanders is doing, coaches have to take notes because the guy is able to get something. I mean, how do you flip Travis Hunter from Florida State to come to Jackson State? I mean, of course, you're the best to ever do it at the position that he's playing, so he's learning from it. But you're looking at a situation where, hey, you can go to Florida State and play against these insanely good teams, or you can come to this HBCU. HBCU football is insane. I will say that. Yeah. But it's just the jump from, hey, our facilities here are pretty garbage. I mean, he upgraded them for sure. But at the time when he got him to flip, it's like, our facilities are garbage. You look at Florida State, they got $120, $130 million facility that you can go walk around and experience. To him be able to do that to so many recruits, and now thousands on Twitter saying, I want to come play for Coach Prime, that's insane to see. And it's crazy how we've never seen a coach really have that much influence. I mean, because you've seen Nick Saban can, make good players great. You've seen Kirby Smart make good players great. You've seen Coach O. I mean, when he was at USC, when he was at LSU, you see a lot of these coaches who are talented, but Coach Prime is unlike we've ever seen.
Yeah, he's definitely a character that will live on in history. It doesn't matter what the record. Well, I say character because of obviously his personality, but he's going to be a guy that's going to go down in the coaching record books forever.
What do you think their record is going to be next year?
Oh gosh, Colorado. Oh,
I think with how much 8-4, you think? 8-4.
Yeah, right out of the gate, 8-4. That's a remarkable turnaround right away.
I think so too. I think they're gonna they're gonna lose their first game, and they're gonna go on like a 5-game winning streak. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I think that would be cool. I think that they're not, obviously, it's going to take a little while for them to get back to being able to be elite. But, I mean, I just saw this stat pop up on my screen that since 2017, Colorado has had a winning percentage of .364, and they've averaged 22 points a game. That is going to change with Deion Sanders. That is a big fact. So
you just got to get him in line and give Shedeur some chances, and then he'll be able to. I think now you'll actually see Shedeur in the Heisman conversation, though.
You think so?
Because I think with HBCUs, they don't get the respect they deserve. So especially in a Pac-12 conference, if you do that against teams like UCLA, USC, teams like that, I mean, you're going to see some really, really solid plays.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Going to be a great college football ending of this year as well. It's a big start of next year. A lot of new changes, a lot of big changes, a lot of notable changes to watch.
Crazy how the season is almost over, and it felt like just yesterday it was starting.
Yeah, we were talking about how Michigan was going to be possibly average. Michigan State could run the table, and
now look at Michigan State. I mean, without Kenneth Walker, they're nothing.
Yeah, they haven't played very good football, and Tuck's going to have to figure out something to turn that around. So, well, not this year. Maybe next year, though. Thank you guys for tuning in for this episode. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more Ferris State College professional focus shows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Me and Joe have got it all together for you so you can listen in any format that you please. And don't forget,
Check out the link tree. Make sure you follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter, y'all. We're approaching 200 followers in each category. So we need your help to get there. Hopefully, if we get there by the end of the year, maybe we'll do something special for you, maybe a special episode here before the new year. But going to be a great rest of the year. Going into 2023, Joe, already. It's going by too fast, man.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, we're almost done with exams, almost graduated here soon. Oh, boy. I got to stop talking.
Well, that's crazy, man. Life is getting to move on too fast, but that's just life, you know.
It is. So until next time.
Take care, everybody.